Good morning, everyone. I'm Ali Reiner, and I'm a relationship coach, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here today to talk to you about a subject that is so close to my heart. I'm talking about love, talking about all things love, how to create the perfect, loving, healthy relationship. Now, is it beyond the bounds of possibility? Is it beyond your wildest dreams? It was beyond mine, but no longer. So a little bit about me. I didn't ever set out to become a relationship coach. It was never on my game plan at all. I wanted to coach. I knew I wanted to coach. But having been through a series of disasters in my own relationship, I found that I was suddenly being called upon to share my experience with people, to share, a sense of hope, and really to share the path that I'd taken to transform. Because I will say at this point, I started my journey by trying to leave a relationship, and I'll go into a bit more detail in a second. And by the time I completed the first round, because this is ongoing, our inner work goes on forever, but by the time I completed that first round and I'd gotten to know myself pretty well, I had to admit that actually I was kind of creating more problems than I was admitting to myself, and actually I didn't want to leave my relationship anymore. So I managed to transform my relationship into something that is today healthy, happy, and loving. And so having done that, I suddenly found that people were asking me how I'd done it, what I'd done, what my path was, and did I have any secrets. And very simply, I realised that people need to know what I've got to tell you. So I'm here today as part of my journey to share with you what I've learned and what you can do if your relationship now. Doesn't matter if you're married and it's not working well, you're just out of a marriage and you're terrified to take the next step into a new relationship, or you're single and you're searching for Mr. Right or Mr. or Miss Right. This applies to everybody. I talk mostly about married women because that's mostly who I work with, but don't be put off by the words. Try and see it from your own perspective. Hear what you can hear from your own perspective, and let's see, how we can move you forward at whatever point you are. If of course you're perfectly happy and you're here supporting somebody else, great. Just give me a clap. Or if you get any input for us, great. I'd love to speak to you afterwards. So here's a little bit about me. As I say, I started from a perspective that I was very miserable in my marriage, and it was untenable in its current state. I had been married not for particularly long, maybe only 5 years or so. We got married very quickly. We had 2 small children. And after about 3 years of marriage, we moved country. I gave up my career and I became a stay-at-home mum. So I was living in a situation that was completely outside my comfort zone. I should say at this point, I am a problem solver. That's what I was renowned for. That's why my husband married me. I didn't take anything, but I solved anything that wasn't working. And that's a different conference, a different story. But that was my superpower, and that's what I sold myself on, and that's why my husband fell for me. So we found ourselves in a different country. I didn't speak the language, as I say. I gave up my career. I realised that actually my career was something that I defined myself by, even though I was a wife, a mother, a friend, a daughter, a sister. I defined myself very much on the career and where I was in my career path. So when that was taken away, I had a huge drop in self-esteem and self-worth. I didn't speak the language, I had no network, and my husband had taken a much higher profile job and therefore was working much longer hours. I was miserable, and I was making everyone else miserable. So, and what I was trying to do was, I realise now, fill a hole that was in me, this hole of misery, with something that my husband just couldn't give me. I wanted love, validation, respect, I wanted my self-worth. I wanted everything that was missing here from him. And I tried that in so many ways, and maybe you'll be able to relate to this. I tried it by pleading with him, by appealing to his better nature, by pointing out every single flaw that he had. I did it with romance, with flowers, with nice meals. There wasn't a way that I didn't try to manipulate my husband to get what I needed from him, or what I thought I needed from him, which was validation and something to fill this deep pit that I had in my stomach, that until that point I'd managed to fill with, with my career and with the various changes that were always happening in my life. I didn't stay still for very long. So I was never particularly aware of these. And when things got too much, I just went out and solved somebody else's problem. So I was always filling this up with outside, validation. And therefore, and when it reached the point that there was no more outside, because there was only me, my kids, my husband, and very little else, the only way that I could fill it up was from him. As you can imagine, things didn't go well. And I decided that I needed to leave this marriage, I needed to leave this country, I needed to set myself straight for my children, to give my children some future. And that's where the shit hit the fan. Because when I looked beyond what I had, I just saw blackness. I didn't see hope. I didn't see, a brand new shiny life. I just saw blackness. And I realized that I had completely lost sense of me. And and of course, the first thing I did was point that finger straight back again. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen this before, but in order to point the finger out, you've got 3 pointing back at you. So a quarter is your fault, 3/4 is my fault. But I was doing it time and time again. And it reached a point that the only contact that I was having with my husband was when he was pointing his finger straight back at me. And we were pretty much like this. So that's where I started my journey. And that took me, to understand 3 very important areas of our well-being, and how we can create this happy, healthy, safe relationship. Now, I know these words don't sound particularly exciting, but this is the foundation. This is the foundation for exciting. This is the foundation for living on the edge. This is the foundation for living life on your terms, whilst happily married or happily partnered, whichever it happens to be for you. You must be able to create this happy, safe, loving environment, healthy environment. Now, what do I mean by that? Something that I've learned, and something that I would encourage you to do, is, what words would you use to describe your perfect relationship? I've given you mine. What do those words mean for you? So, for instance, for me, happy and safe and healthy. Happy, well, that means we have good fun. It's a place that I go back into when the world seems a bit of a dangerous place, or everything seems to be getting on top of me. I can go back into my marriage, and we can have fun together, and we can close all the doors and close all the curtains, and we can bounce off each other, and we laugh and we joke, and we bolster each other up, we chat, we put the world to right, whatever. That's my happy place. Safe is where I feel that I can open up, I can be me, I can tell you what's wrong, I can tell you how I'm feeling, and I can tell you it without looking for pity, don't get me wrong, I do like a bit of pity, but I'm not pouring this out with the intention of getting something back. I'm pouring it out with the intention of you understanding me more. So that's, for me, that's what safe means for me. Healthy, well, healthy for me is, again, we're not living fairy tales. I don't work with clients and promise them a fairy tale ending. I do promise that they can live happy, healthy, safe relationships. And for me, healthy means knowing how to handle conflict. So we're not always going to be happy and smiling. Things are not going to go our way. Somebody's going to upset somebody. How do we deal with it? Well, instead of finger pointing, find a different way. The way for me is going to be different for you. That's why coaching is beautiful, because there is not a stock answer. It's all about what works for the individual. Now, me, for instance, my way of doing it is, again, putting it out there. As soon as I say it out loud, already I feel lighter. So I'm not looking again to point my finger, but I'm looking to share how I'm feeling, and I'm looking for feedback. And if we can't come to agreement, today I know that it doesn't mean you don't love me. It doesn't mean that you are judging me harshly. You hate me. You're, all these things that my shitty committee up here would tell me beforehand. I know that it's just part of a healthy, safe relationship. We don't always need to agree, but we need to know how to live with disagreement. So that's healthy for me. You'll have your own words that you use when you describe your perfect relationship, and I would encourage you to take a pen and a piece of paper and write down what that actually means for you. If you want to take it a step further, go and ask your partner, what does it mean for him? What is his ideal relationship, and what do these words that he throws about mean? It's also really important when you get into a conflict situation, if, for instance, you don't feel respected, which is something I hear a lot. Well, it's a really difficult thing to define. I have clients who say, I don't feel respected. Well, what does respect mean for you? Write down what respect means for you. Ask your partner who's saying, of course I'm respecting you, what his definition of respect is. You'll probably see they're two completely different things, and he's respecting you in terms of his definition. You're not being met, yours isn't being met because it's a different definition, but he's respecting you, and therefore you can let go of this idea of not being respected or loved or listened to or taken into account. Whatever it is that's burning you up, whatever it is that's putting that distance between you and your partner, get it down on paper. What does it mean for me? If I am to feel truly loved in this relationship or a relationship, what will be happening? Explain that to your husband. Instead of saying, you don't love me. I'm saying it because I've thrown those words out there. Instead of saying that, ask. Don't ask at all. Tell them, I don't feel loved in terms of X, Y, Z, whatever is on your list for feeling loved. It gives them something to work with. It gives them something to say, do you know what? I don't do that. Or, well, wait a minute, I do that. Maybe, why is she not seeing it? It's all about how we put these things across. Now, again, if you're going to put it across with the intention of getting into a fight or winning points, which when the communication is bad, that tends to be what it comes down to. And that's, when the communication isn't working, it tends to be a case of point scoring. If we let go of point scoring, if we let go of expectations, if we know that we're sharing with the intention of being vulnerable, if you like, being open, showing our heart, but not looking for somebody to say, you're right, and I'm a piece of shit. Saying, okay, well, what can we do about this? So, that's why I think it's really important that we understand the words that we use, the words that we throw around in arguments. So let me just move a step on. Something that I've discovered is there are 3 states of being: dependence, independence, and interdependence. Now, a healthy, safe, loving, happy relationship for me is based on interdependence. But at the height of my marital problems, there was no interdependence. In fact, I had gone from hugely independent to completely dependent. Completely dependent is not a good way to be in a relationship on a long-term basis. Yeah, it happens. Shit happens. We get down. If we're in a healthy, interdependent relationship, we can build ourselves up. We can, one person can hold the other person up for a period of time. Anyway, dependent. Dependent, what does it bring into your mind? If I say dependent, for me, small children, teenagers, old people who have lost the ability to live on their own. That's dependent for me. Now, dependent can be financial, it can be physical, and it can be emotional. Emotional independence, dependence, is something that certainly I wasn't taught. So I had gone from being emotionally isolated to emotionally dependent. And I didn't realise it because I'd never gone through the process. I didn't know what it meant. So I found myself emotionally dependent. I had to move from emotionally dependent to emotionally independent. How? And that is what I teach. That's what, if you come to work with me, if you come to talk to me, I will give you the tools to do, is to dig in deep and understand what emotional independence for you is. Because when you have that in place, you can then create the interdependent, beautiful, healthy, loving, happy, whatever words you use to describe your perfect relationship, but only when this is in place. And I don't know why I'm holding this finger up, because it's a bit rude. But what is emotional independence? Well, going back to my example earlier, I had a hole here. That hole was where my emotions should have been. And I was trying to fill that hole with the love, the respect, the validation of my husband. It was never going to work. I've read, you've read, we've all heard, wherever you go online, wherever you look, we know that we are responsible for our own happiness, our own love. Love is an inside job. Happiness is an inside job. When we look out there, we're going to be left lacking. And that's what, I'm talking about relationships, but this hole here, this hole leads to all sorts of problems. It leads to addictions. It leads to everything. In my case, it led to, trying to get something from my husband. In your case, it can be different. In your case, who knows? You'll know your own story. Anyway, amen. Emotional independence is when we learn to fill that hole ourselves. That's where we learn to tap into who we are, not who we think we should be, not who we believe we should be, not who we've been taught we should be, but who we are at the core of our person. And I can take you through a process. Any good coach can take you through that process of finding out what you are at your core, what your values are, and how you live well. And when you know that, you can then start to create your own action plan to build a sense of self-love, self-worth, self-compassion. Guys, self-compassion. If you can't be compassionate to yourself, you can't be compassionate to anyone. You need to forgive yourself for what you didn't know before you knew it. Self-esteem. Now, self-esteem is a difficult one, because self-esteem has got to, there's a fine line between being about external and being about what you're creating here. But if you've got a good, healthy sense of self, a good sense of self-love, you can then go forward in it. You can then create your own safe boundaries. You can create, and we don't create these boundaries for other people. We create these boundaries for us, to keep us safe, to keep us from those fingers that come in and press and push our buttons. So that is your job, that's your responsibility, that is where you have control over everything. You don't have control over him, you don't have control over her, you don't have control over the situation, the weather, nothing. But you have control over how much love and worth and respect you're going to show yourself. And the amazing thing there is, when you start to do that, other people start to show it to you. You suddenly become hugely attractive to your partner, but to other people too. And that's what I've found happened to me, not just with my partner, my husband rather, but other people suddenly became very attracted to the vibe that I was giving out. They wanted to know what I'd done, how I transformed me, who was quiet and shy and, you know, less than, to somebody who was willing to stand up and be counted and say, do you know what? Shit, I am as good as you guys. I'm as good as the man I'm married to. I'm as good as the guy that sells milk in the corner shop. I'm as good as the guy that runs Microsoft. I am just an equal to you all. And people wanted to know how I'd done it. And that's why I'm here today. I share that with people. I share my story with people. It all comes from creating this sense of emotional independence. Once we have that firmly in place, and this is it's an ongoing task, we fill ourselves up, we fill ourselves up, we fill ourselves up, we start to empty out again. It's a continuous process of making sure that we are putting ourselves first. It's not selfish, it's I can't remember the word, preservation. It's self-preservation. Put ourselves first, fill ourselves up with what we need, and then we can take that out into the world, into our relationship, and we are whole. And then we can go into other relationships as a whole person, and we don't need to take from them. So we can create this interdependent, healthy relationship where you have this special talent, I have this special talent, let's put them together and make this a fantastic working relationship, a loving relationship, however it's going to sit with you. So that's what I've got to say to you today. That's how, that's been the transformation that I've taken myself through, is how I move my clients through the three parts, dependence, independence, and interdependence. And for us, the most important way forward is to create this emotional independence. With that, and working on that constantly, and working on your sense of self, then everything is possible. You can create relationships beyond your wildest dreams. And that's why I call my company an inside job, because it all comes from within me. I have that power deep at my core because I'm working on it. I'm working on it, and you can too. So I thank you so much for listening to me. I offer, if you want to talk to me later, I've got programs that I offer, a 6-week or a 12-week program, or an introductory coaching session to get to know me, get to know how I work. We can talk about it at the later at the back. Thank you again. Thank you to Des. And I'm so looking forward to catching some of you later. Have a great conference, guys. Bye.